Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Nothing Phone 1 and if this is still going to be a good purchase option for the year of 2023. Just a bit of background. This phone was launched in the mid 2022, around June, July, and I received my unit around end of July 2022. And I've used this for 2 to 3 weeks daily driving it, experiencing it, and on and off after then. And it has been a good experience, which is why I still think that this is going to be a good device for someone to pick in the year of 2023. So let me list out some of the pros and cons that might help you make the decision if you're really out in the market to buy a new phone because your current one doesn't work or has issues and it's time for you to actually upgrade. So let's start with a couple of the pros. Nothing Phone 1 is a budget phone, and that to me is a pro because a lot of the features that you get here are not to be overlooked, because here in Australia it cost me $899, but it cost me $899 for the variant of 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, which means majority of the phones that has 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, they cost about 1,000 Australian dollars plus, at least in my experience. And I have a good example. The Pixel 7, not the Pixel 7 Pro, the original Pixel 7, costs about 1,199 Australian dollars, comes with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. Everything is pretty much half, and you have to pay well over 1,000 Australian dollars to get that. Another pro of this phone is this has 120 Hz refresh rate display, which even the Google Pixel 7 in the 1,199 Australian dollar price point does not have. The Google Pixel 7 has 90 Hz refresh rate. So this is another win for the Nothing Phone 1 for the price point. And in my experience, the battery life on the Nothing Phone 1 compared to the Pixel 7 or any of the other Android devices that I've had, excluding the Fold 4, this has been able to outlast them all. Not really sure if it is because of how the battery optimization happens inside of the Nothing Phone 1. It could be anything. But throughout the day, I've been able to survive with one full charge. Every morning around 6 or 7 a.m., I take this off the charger and then I go about with my day. By the time I'm about to go to sleep, I put this in my wireless charger on my bedside table. By then, I would have like 5 to 10% still remaining. So I'm ending the day with 5 to 10% battery left over. In my experience with Pixel 7, it was always dead around 6, 7, or 8 p.m. and I had to charge it if I needed to use the phone after that. With the Nothing Phone 1, by the time I go to bed, which is around 11 or midnight, I still have 5 to 10% remaining, and I just put it on my wireless charger so that it has full charge for the next day. So battery is another pro, at least in my experience. But battery is pretty subjective because depending on how you use the phone, it might either last the entire day or you might have to give it a little bit of charge. In my case, Nothing Phone 1, I've never had to charge in the entire day. Coming to the screen itself again, I really love the screen that this has, at least in my unit. I've heard people say that their unit has had green tint issue or discoloration when looking at it from certain angles, but I haven't faced that. In my experience, the colors are pretty amazing. Watching Netflix, the content is pretty good. It is a small screen to watch Netflix and immerse yourself, but if need be, whilst you're on a public transportation, at least the color is somewhat better than the Pixel 7, at least in my experience when I compared them side by side. Even when I was daily driving Pixel 7 for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I was able to notice because I had moved from the Nothing Phone to the Pixel 7 to see how they compared. So 2 to 3 weeks of Nothing Phone 1 and then 2 to 3 weeks use of the Pixel 7, and I missed the display on the Nothing Phone because I was able to notice that the colors were richer on the Nothing Phone 1. It was like more vivid. For some reason, the display of the Nothing Phone 1 always seemed smoother to me. Obviously, the Nothing Phone 1 display goes up to 120 Hz and the Pixel 7 goes up to 90 Hz, but Nothing Phone has a better display, at least in my case. If you have display issues with your Nothing device, if it's a green tint issue, do reach out to Nothing support in Twitter and see what they can do to assist you. And if you have any discoloration, there could be many reasons how the discoloration happened. Maybe you dropped it and something happened to the display, or it's like out of the box when you got it. That could be a possibility as well, all of which can be addressed if you reach out to any supporting channels of Nothing, one of which is the Twitter handle Nothing Support. So display is another perk, at least for me. Coming to the glyph interface, this is a pro, although it is a gimmick, and I myself have called it a gimmick because phone lives in your pocket. When you're getting a call or text when the phone is in your pocket, you're not going to be able to see the glyph lights, how it's lighting up. And the other reason I had to call the glyph light a gimmick was if I have a dark dark case and the glyph lights is hidden, I'm not going to be able to make use of that. Whilst that is true, the Nothing Tech on their site do sell clear case, which costs about 45 Australian dollars, but on eBay or Amazon, you might be able to find alternatives for much, much lesser price, and you can still enjoy the glyph interface at least when it's out of your pocket. The other excuse that I made to call the glyph lights a gimmick was placement of the phone on the table or wherever you put it. I basically said majority of the people put their phones face up and the glyph lights is hidden, but it still leaks out a little bit of light. And I noticed that in real life when I was using this phone and I had my main SIM card in it, I had this phone on the table face up still. And yes, I did have a transparent case as well. I don't at the moment, but the transparent case was there. The phone was on the table face up, and I got like a call and the light was leaking from the bottom edges and people were able to notice that. So I really like that because it was like getting some attention. You don't have to carry your phone to get an attention, but at least the glyph light is there. So if you're getting attention, why not enjoy it? That was pretty good. Conversation started like, what phone is that? And every time, because of the transparent case that I always have on my phone, whenever I'm taking a call in the public, I do get a lot of head turns because people want to see what phone is that. And sometimes people even ask, what phone do I have? And some even say that, oh, it kind of looks like iPhone. And it does, because it does share that profile. It kind of looks like the iPhone. And as I have stated in my previous video, when I'm waking up from the bed and then I reach out for my phone, the iPhone and the Nothing phone kind of feels the same because of the way that they're built. So I have been confused. And even when I have both the iPhone and the Nothing Phone 1 in my pocket, because I do carry two phones, and I feel like I'm taking the Nothing phone out because my iPhone also has a clear case, my Nothing phone also has a clear case, so they do feel the same inside of my pocket. And when I take it out, because of the build quality as well, especially with the case, I am taking the Nothing phone out when I'm actually thinking I want to take the iPhone out. So that has happened with me. We're getting a bit off track here. Coming back to talking about the pros, the other one thing I have is charging. You have this little indicator. When you connect a charger, this little indicator right here in the bottom, the exclamation mark thing, it lights up. So you don't really need to look at your phone, like tap on the screen and then see what percentage your battery has been charged. All you have to do is, like, when your phone is charging, just wiggle it a little. If it's all the way up, that means you have a full battery. When you're wirelessly charging, obviously you cannot make use of that, but when you're wirelessly charging, your always on display is basically going to tell you how much battery percentage you have, and you can turn this battery percentage on anytime you want. You don't necessarily need to have been charging. It will tell you every time what the battery percentage is at. We've talked about a couple of the pros. Let's give some of the cons a shot as well. It is a glass phone, meaning that if you want to rock this caseless, it's going to attract a lot of fingerprints. Before recording this video, this phone was covered in a lot of fingerprints. I had to wipe multiple times. Not sure if you can still see this, but because I've obviously wiped it, there might not be much, but it was fully covered in fingerprints, and it is a fingerprint magnet because it is a glass. That to me is a con, because having fingerprints, it's not really good. You're always like smudging on your t-shirt and it doesn't feel good, or you have to carry a microfiber cloth, which none of us do. Our main go-to is like rub it on your clothes or something like that, but fingerprint magnet, let down. The other con that I have with this is obviously the camera. It's a con because it doesn't take the best photos. So if you want to compare the photos taken from the Nothing Phone 1 and the Pixel 7, then the Nothing Phone 1 is obviously going to lose because Pixel 7 takes good photos, has good post-processing. So because of that, the result is always good, but with Nothing, it's not that good. But Nothing is a budget phone, so maybe they cut cost there to save on the money so that it is cheaper for the people to buy the product. So that is fully understandable. But because you do not get good photos unless there is a good lighting condition, for that reason, I'm putting the camera in the cons list. For the price point, it is good, but still falls in the cons list because some of the phones, like a Poco phone, it takes better photos, in my opinion at least, than the Nothing Phone 1. But do note that it is still way better than majority of the budget phones out there, but I'm gonna leave it in the cons list for now. The other thing that I would put in the cons list is software update. So every time I see Carlpay tweet on Twitter about some software version being released to the Nothing Phone 1, and then I quickly hop on to my settings to see if it is out for me, and then it's not, because the first release is happening to either the UK or the US, and me being in Australia, I have to wait a couple of days for that same software update to be available for me to be able to download and install. I do not like that, and for that, I'm putting that as under con. But in saying that, you do eventually get it, and once I get it, I do download download it and install it, because you shouldn't skip out on the software updates because it could potentially include security patches as well. But for the delay in the different type of countries, I list the software updates as a con for now. Another con that I have is the fingerprint scanner here, because if the screen is locked and I press on the fingerprint, it takes a little bit of time to unlock. I have a Fold 4 and the fingerprint scanner on the Fold 4 is way snappy. But yes, you might be saying that the Fold 4 is a pretty expensive phone, so they would obviously have top of the line fingerprint scanner. But there are other Samsung budget devices as well out there which has a fairly quicker fingerprint scanner. But I think the fingerprint scanner on the Nothing Phone 1 can be improved just a tad bit so that it's a bit more quicker. For that reason, I'm putting the fingerprint scanner in the cons. I would mostly prefer the fingerprint scanner be on the power button or maybe on the back, but because the back is glass, I can understand why it's not at the back. But power button, I think that's going to be a bit more better, because sometimes glass, it might not register properly, but the button, because of the indentation that the button has, you might be able to feel the button more prominently, and you might have more success rate than failure rates in the scanning of the fingerprint on the phone. So for that reason, fingerprint as a con, at least for me. So that's pretty much it in the day-to-day uses and on and off uses. My experience with the entire phone as a whole, as a user of the phone, has been pretty good. That's why I feel like this is still a worth it buy, or at least you should consider it. And I would still recommend the Nothing Phone 1 to people in the year of 2023, because it is still fast, smooth. Bugs are way less than how it was during the launch in July of 2022. Nothing has fixed majority of them. Couple of the minor bugs here and there can be overlooked. That is pretty much present with majority of the phone. Even the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I have with the iOS 16 has had a lot of bugs. So I think we have to cut a little bit of slack to Nothing, because they're a fairly newer company with their first ever smartphone. So I think they deserve a little bit of break. So all in all, yes, I do recommend this to people. I do suggest people at least consider this before purchasing their next Android device. If you're in the market for a new Android phone, budget Android phone, you should consider this. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, peace.